On this segment of TIA Now from TIA's Connectivity Jam in Dallas, Texas, we're joined by industry experts on the subject of connecting the core to the powerful edge, that by reflecting on industry use cases. On this discussion are Michael Heitz, he's Chief Information Officer of the University of Illinois System. We also have Mark Pyatt, he's Senior Director, Operational Integrity, Global Oil and Gas at SAP. And on the end is Andreas Carvalho, he's Founder and Chief Executive Officer of CMG. And gentlemen, welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
I know you did somewhat of a similar panel just earlier at TIA's Connectivity Jam. I heard that went pretty well. We're going to recap that just a bit this time around with a couple of little changes. I want to start with Mark. What are really the connecting network technologies that will realize the full benefit and opportunity of 5G, in your opinion?
Well, I think today's, in the oil and gas industry, there's a whole topology of networks that need to be connected. What we talked about in the panel discussion breakout a while ago was just that. How do you manage all those together as you evolve towards 5G and get the full efficiencies of benefits of 5G, what's being talked about? That's going to be a moving target for most of my customers in oil and gas. I think in the process industries that really look at remote location and operations at the edge. So there's a whole variety of networks from old to new, and I think that the benefit there is really trying to, or the thing we need from the industry more is really how do you manage those topologies and evolve them towards the 5G so they can get the full benefits out of what we're trying to achieve. That's been really the issue. And so it's connectivity and consistency of connectivity is really important to our customers, and that's what we're striving for with working with carriers like Verizon and others that can help us ensure the consistency of operation.
Andreas, connecting network technologies to realize 5G. And by the way, before you answer that question, tell us quickly about CMG. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, CMG is a strategic planning and advisory firm focused on smart cities, smart utilities, and smart buildings. So we are focusing on helping both buyers and sellers of technology and look out 2 to 4 years in terms of creating new products, new services, or consuming this technology and deploying it safely in a way that is scalable, affordable.
So maybe, and I said in the introduction about case studies or use cases to that effect. Can you give us a case study about maybe some of these connecting technologies?
Yeah, so I think what we're saying is we're moving from a world of a few billion things connected in the world, 3 to 5 billion things in the world today, consumers, industry, some autos, some devices, data centers, and so on. All around, and we're going to explode to some 300 billion things connected in the next 20 years. And so today we have a lot of single-purpose networks built, a lot of private networks run by rail, oil and gas, utilities, aviation, Air Force, all kinds of different private networks, and then you have the commercial networks. And now the world has evolved in the wireless sector in terms of 5G capability, topology, quality of service, all kinds of great bells and whistles. And the question is, how do you take all this legacy infrastructure, the few 5 billion things, on this standalone private networks plus commercial networks, and how do you grow that together harmoniously with privacy, safety, security, scalability, and affordability of managing all that traffic back and forth to handle the worst use case, video real time, all the way to any low latency case. And so we're going to have to re-architect how we do networking. We're going to have to re-architect how we manage the edge. We're going to have to redefine all kinds of security policies, personal policies, all kinds of issues around control of data, congestion of data, priority of data. That's really, we're heading into what I would call uncharted territory. Again, from 5 billion things to 300 billion things.
Michael, I know that the University of Illinois leads the way in engineering in a number of areas, and you spend an astounding amount of funding dollars on research. Talk about the research you're doing in IoT, but really more of the applications of those communications technologies.
Sure, and rather than talk about the specific applications, I think I want to talk about the mission of the university in terms of research, and not just that, but teaching and learning, and also our engagement. So we have lots of researchers that are on the cutting edge. They're working with the National Center for Supercomputing Applications, doing petascale calculations, they're doing bioengineering. And all of the research, all of the data that they take needs to be moved around. So we need to not only communicate within the University of Illinois at high speed, do high-speed computing, high-speed storage, but also places outside the University of Illinois, whether that would be a hospital or it would be a corporate partner. From a teaching and learning side, we're talking about what does the class of the future look like? So it's not just online education, it's not just the convergence of the textbook, it's how do you integrate the experience of a lecturer delivering something with the adaptive education, the online education, being able to work with your peers, your fellow students, and integrate all of that connectivity and all of those communications into one. And then finally on the engagement side, we have a big focus on agriculture. So using things like sensors in the ground and drones that fly around to help people grow food better, lower the cost of food, and help the state of Illinois are some of the things that we do. And trying to figure out how you would leverage 5G in harmony with the networks that we already have at the University of Illinois is a concern to us. We run our own fiber networks, we have connectivity between our campuses, and we want to figure out how to partner with 5G vendors in order to make that seamless.
Of course, Mark, the title of this segment is Connecting to the Powerful Edge. In the oil and gas sector, even 2 years ago, what could you not do with IoT or high-speed networking that you can do now?
Well, I think that a lot of our offshore and remote region operations are coming into connectivity now. You can start actually gain access to data sources and then real-time decision support at the point of work execution. That could be in the field in operation in the Gulf of Mexico or in West Texas and remote regions. So that connectivity and the new advancements in technology and communication have really enabled that reach to the edge to improve. I think also the portability of it, being able to move it to different locations. A lot of our customers have portable units now, and they expect those to support remote operations in Algeria, Africa, different remote regions of the world where there's not a telecommunications infrastructure to really support it. They're using satellite telecommunications and using compression algorithms to move the data that way. So having that flexibility again in the 5G network is really the enablement to get data back to headquarters. That's critical for our customers because they want to have the ability to make decisions both on the portfolio and the investment they're making around the world. So they're comparing Africa to the Gulf of Mexico to Alaska, and they're looking at the way that they deploy their best resources as well as their funding to keep these projects alive and well, or they're thinking about shutting them down entirely and giving them to somebody else to work on while they move out of that region and move to others. So telecommunications and the 5G network and the portability of it has been significantly improved the last 2 years. I think it's going to continue. That's going to really allow us to have a lot more control at the point of work execution.
Andreas, connecting network technologies, really connecting to the powerful edge. From your perspective, what can you do now that you couldn't do even a couple years back?
Yeah, so take for example utilities where we have smart grids, smart meters connected. We have smart electric vehicle charging infrastructure connected. So you have now the blend of, again, the utilities private networks controlling their supervisory control and data acquisition, energy management systems to run the grid at 60 hertz or 50 hertz in other parts of the world. And then you have this, different networks with different vendors leveraging either a public carrier network or their own private network. And these networks are now interacting and connected because they're exchanging data. So for example, if a significant number of electric vehicles charge at the same time and they happen to have enough capacity that it would tank the grid, the utility would need to know about it. It should know about it, should be proactive about it. So now the carriers, the providers are collaborating with the utilities to make sure that all this infrastructure and all this data and all these devices are talking to each other in a way that they had never talked before.
You just mentioned one of the, or a challenge that you're experiencing. Mark, I wanted to ask you the same thing, so good segue. Biggest challenge you're seeing in the oil and gas sector as far as IoT or 5G, or in the connectivity space? It's
connectivity consistency. You get so many, you're looking for real-time feedback to support decisions. You get some support, you don't get some support in remote regions, so that downtime causes problems. It delays processes, and that's money down the hole, down the bank. So the inconsistency is a problem still, and as we get better and more deployed capabilities around 5G, I think that'll actually ease. But in remote regions, it's still a big issue. So can you create a use technology to create an operational box that runs the entire operation and is the brain of the area or of the operation around that area, so that they can operate in disconnected mode. And when the network comes back up, they're reconnected again. They get the real-time assets back. That's what our customers are asking for today: is the ability to operate that way, so that they still have the ability to have information that's available to the workers that are in that site location. That means safety processes, standard operating procedures, real-time feedback from downhole. Those are the things that are important when you're on the rig, and so those are the things that we want to ensure continue, but we want to then enable the connectivity of subject matter experts and connectivity back to Houston and other places where headquarters are at, so that these remote regions can become more real-time consistent from a communication standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you talked earlier about aggregating a number of technologies for one use case, integrating those technologies for one use case. Is metadata a technology, or is metadata an area of focus for you? And is that an example of what you were talking about?
Metadata is a focus for us. We run enterprise applications that really track all the information about our students, our finances, our HR, and having a sophisticated data warehouse so that we can figure out from a business perspective and also from a student perspective what decisions should we be making. One of the things that I'm interested in is what is the business processes that surround the student and how they change in the future. So we know from their wearables and we know from their phones what it is that they're doing throughout the day, what they're interacting with. I know from a data warehouse perspective and a metadata perspective what it is they're doing in terms of their curriculum. I know what their career interests are and where they're heading. But what I can't deliver to students right now is actionable information that's given to the students about what classes should I take next, what job might I get from this, what type of salary, and trying to figure out how you take that data and put it into the hands of the students so that they can make actionable decisions is one of the focuses that we have.
Again, title of the segment, Connecting to the Powerful Edge, and I want to start with Andreas and go down the line here. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask this in the beginning, but I thought for a second to ask you at the end after I hear everything. What does connecting to the powerful edge mean to you, specifically?
Yeah, what we're living in is the digitalization of the planet. And we're going from a centralized way of doing everything. We used to do centralized computing, we used to do centralized telecom, we used to do centralized energy, centralized water, and now we're moving to a distributed paradigm. Intelligence is flowing down the line, and every edge device will have a computer inside. It will have enough room to collect enough data to do all kinds of cool things. It will have software intelligence, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So that transformation means new architectures, new paradigms, new ways of doing things, but more importantly, all kinds of new applications and capabilities to make life better, more meaningful, more real time, more sophisticated, less friction, less issues.
Mark?
Yeah, for us, it's really what applications, what information, what data can be utilized by people to make better decisions. And that's what we're striving for at SAP, and trying to bring together disparate data sources that once before were not possible to be pulled together. Now using technology and enablement of telecommunication networks to really drive that forward. And then, what new information is going to be developed from that and new ideas, what intelligence is going to be embedded in the applications to carry the decisions that need to be made. Those are things we're working on today, and that's what we want to put forth for our customers so they can benefit them in the long run to improve work processes and actually give them greater insight to action to really execute on. That's what we're trying for.
Michael?
In the university setting, almost everybody is part of the powerful edge. So whether you're an individual student or faculty member or a college, it's highly distributed. So trying to put together a core that everybody can utilize fairly, efficiently, powerfully, so that they can do their job is what we're trying to do. One of the things we're thinking about is how do you use tools like Watson in the classroom? So if you had an environment where in the College of Education, you were trying to teach teachers the differences in learning styles between young students in elementary school, and you had 12 high-definition cameras that were watching the classroom, how is it that you're going to gather that data, process the data, and then feed it into some type of cognitive learning system that could give you feedback on whether a student is hungry, or they're autistic, or they're just tired? And things like that happen on the edge is what we're trying to enable.
I think connecting to the powerful edge can have many, many more iterations of discussion, more versions, and in different sectors. So looking forward to hearing about the new business models in that area. So Andreas, thanks for being with us. Nice meeting you, by the way.
Thank you.
And Mark, nice to put a face with the call and the emails.
Yep, nice to meet you.
And Michael, it's good seeing you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.